before we take your calls and get to the last hour, let's talk about something that I think is absolutely astonishing. It is a megacity that is being planned in the Saudi Arabian desert. It's a 100-mile long mirrored skyscraper. It's called a megacity, and it will be home, if it's built, to as many as 9 million people. It's called The Line. It's in an area called NEOM. And they say it's the future. We're looking at it now. It's the future. It will contain vertical farms, vegetation hanging out of, if you're looking at TalkTV now, you're seeing it now, a long line across the desert. That is a 100-mile long skyscraper. Look at it. Astonishing. It's going to have stadiums in the sky, 9 million residents, vertical farms, just extraordinary. Let's talk to the just the guy, actually. He's the founder of the Future Cities Project, Austin Williams. Hello, Austin.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Is this a vision of utopia, or is it a dystopian future? What's your feeling?
Well, I mean, it's one of those interesting things, isn't it, that it's actually designated as a net zero city. That I thought that might be something that you'd be impressed by. But of course, it's funded by the massive profits that they're making on gas and petroleum as a result of the crisis that's going on in the West. So it's one of those kind of fantastic ironies of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, all these areas which are now building new major cities, obviously meant to be kind of environmentally sensitive, but funded by the oil industry, which, horses for courses. I kind of think it's I think it's monstrous, but I think it's excitingly monstrous. Given the fact that, we don't build anything in this country. We haven't built a reservoir for 30 years. You probably noticed we haven't built a city for 50 years. So, nothing really kind of gets done in small towns. And so there's something exciting about it. I think you kind of mentioned that in your introduction there. There's something really different, futuristic, and something which we've kind of lost in our ambitions in the West. I teach architecture, and it's one of those things, whenever you kind of see a British student or an American student designing something, it's always a very small timber, earth, bamboo, straw hut. You see a Chinese student and they're building mega structures
Miserable,
into the
yeah.
distance. Well, it's just small scale and kind of petty and not really adventurous. So I think there's something adventurous about this. I don't really like it, but it's adventurous.
It's the project of Mohammed bin Salman, one of the kingdom's crown princes. It's a place called NEOM, and it's near the Gulf of Aqaba. And as you say, it's going to be controlled by artificial intelligence. These are 500-meter high, 200-meter wide structures. It's going to be car-free, no cars. You won't need cars. There's going to be a perfect public transport system there, carbon neutral bubble that will boast total sustainability and a temperate regulated microclimate. So they'll actually all be living indoors, because you can't really live outdoors in the Saudi Arabian desert. How will they get water?
Well, it's the ultimate lockdown city, isn't it? I mean, I think that water. I mean, in some of those regions, they are actually investing. Unlike Beckton in London, we are investing in seawater reclamation. Do you know what I mean? So they are developing new technologies which will actually be able to feed the city. They're also looking at condensation, would you believe, to actually kind of bring water down from the dew points in the mornings. But I mean, I just think it's a little bit like the development of maybe cities on the moon or cities on Mars, which kind of we used to talk about in the West back in the 1960s and 70s. A lot of those kind of science fiction type ideas. And like I say, there's something interestingly aspirational about it, although I wouldn't necessarily want to live there myself. But it's also the fact that I don't know whether it's going to be built. Do you know what I mean? At the moment, it's a 5-year long press release, not just a 100-year city. So nothing's really happened. I went to a city called Masdar in Abu Dhabi about 5 years ago, which was the eco city that everyone was talking about. And when I got there, it was kind of the size of a supermarket. I mean, on the visions, on the images online, you'd think it was a mega city. When you get there, you could walk around it in 20 minutes. And it's just not being invested in, not being built. Again, another eco city funded by the oil and gas industry. So it's almost like, it's a way of actually putting off anybody's criticism of your inherent fundamental economy based on oil. So you can point them to an eco city and get
this
away
is
with
a classic case of greenwashing, isn't it? And
Precisely.
I'll tell you another thing worries me about it, Austin. If you go back to the 1960s, when they started building these what they called new towns, these new council estates, these were going to be social paradises, domestic paradises, like shopping centres like the Bullring, the original Bullring, which stunned everyone. This is the future of shopping. Actually, you go to the Bullring now, it's amazing. But these places, when they were built in the 60s, they quickly declined into sort of total hellholes. That's what worries me about the line.
Well, I think it depends on what the industry is, who occupies it, and what the investment is. I mean, lots of council estates in this country were left to rack and ruin. Poor people were put in there without much job opportunities, and they just went inherently into decline. A lot of those 1960s blocks have been refurbished, and you put in your middle class architects. And they're on a reasonably decent wage, and they seem to be doing fine. So the architecture works both ways. The architecture just is. It's the social conditions, I think, that make the situation positive or negative. And I think that this is very much a dynamic economic situation in Saudi Arabia. And what's interesting is a little bit of a shift from maybe the West. We all talk about America and China and talk about the West and India, but actually Africa is developing. Do you know what I mean? There's new cities being built in Rwanda, in Cairo, in Nigeria. There's lots of interesting investment.
We're at the crossroads, I think, but we'll await developments with the line with interest. Thank you very much, Austin. Good to talk to you. Austin Williams, founder of the Future Cities Project there. Another sizzling hour still to come. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and this is Talk TV coming at you live from the Talk Radio studios.